Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. So last week we did first four verses of the first chapter. Anybody has any comments, questions, points to be um, talked about? No? Garima Mataji, you were not there, right? Last week. Even Rohit Prabhuji, I think you.
I was there, but yeah, I couldn't
I
attend
was
it
not there,
properly.
Subal.
Okay, fine. So I'll just give a very quick overview. So what has happened in the first verse? Um, Bhagavad Gita is, despite being such a scripture, it is opened up by somebody like Dhritarashtra. So it's a kind of opposite of what one would expect. Like for example, Ramayana starts with the dialogue between Narad Muni and Valmiki Rishi. So two very pious people. Whereas here Dhritarashtra is opening up the Bhagavad Gita kind of scripture. So he starts off asking Sanjay, what did the sons of... Sorry, one moment. I'm sorry. So he asks, what did the sons of Pandu do and what did my sons do after gathering to fight on the battlefield? So the question itself contains the answer. So we said basically if few friends gather in a restaurant for eating, then a question like what did they do after going into the restaurant for eating? What did they do? The question is redundant actually. So you would ask that question because you would expect something other than eating also to happen. And we extended that example to say that if a terrorist has planted a bomb and he says, okay, what happened after these few friends went into the restaurant for eating? That is because the terrorist expects bomb to explode, which is not a normal course of action compared to normal going there and eating. So here Dhritarashtra also expected some things to happen, meaning he didn't want that to happen, but he expected that there is a chance it can happen. So what was it? So he opens up the statement to say Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre. Dharma Kshetra is a place of pilgrimage, a pious place of pilgrimage. So the place also has an effect on the people staying over there. So he was worried that if this place, the Kurukshetra, which is a very pious place, if that place influences Duryodhan to give up the kingdom of Pandavas back to them, then that is not what Dhritarashtra wanted. And he also expected that because Yudhishthir is a very pious king, he expected that Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra should influence Yudhishthir to give up his demand for the kingdom of Hastinapur, the Indraprastha altogether. He he was thinking that either of these can happen. So that's why he is curiously asking Sanjay what happened. Then Sanjay starts speaking. And what does he speak? First, he starts speaking about what did Duryodhan do. Okay, so he starts explaining Drishtva Pandavanikam Vyudham Duryodhanastada. So Duryodhan is observing the Vyudham is basically the army, the arrangement of the army. He is saying the Duryodhan has started observing the arrangement of the Pandavas' army in the battlefield, and accordingly, then he was a bit surprised and he went up to Acharya, that is Dronacharya, to speak something. What does he speak? That he starts talking in verse number 3. So he says, Pashaitam Pandu Putranam Acharya Mahatim Chamu. He says, To the teacher, he tells, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Quite a few things we discussed around this verse. So first he starts explaining Dronacharya, the way the Pandavas have arranged the battlefield. Firstly, it is not required because Dronacharya, being the teacher of Pandavas and Kauravas, he knows how to analyze the army and the arrangement of an army. Student like Duryodhan doesn't need to teach Dronacharya, but still he is going up and telling him. Why? Because he wants to prove a point over there. He wants to indicate Dronacharya that you made some mistake. What was that mistake? Vyudham Drupada Putrena, meaning Drupada Putrena, the commander in chief of Pandavas. Does anyone know what the name of that person? Anybody? Who was the commander in chief of Pandavas? You can unmute yourself and speak. It will be good to have an interactive session.
Draupadi's father, I think. No.
No, here he is saying Drupada Putrena. So Draupadi's father is Drupada and Drupada Putrena. Who is that?
Brother.
Who is the putra of Drupad and the brother of Draupadi? No. So it was Drishtadyumna. Yeah. So Drishtadyumna arranged the battle, the army of Pandavas, and he is saying Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Why Tava Shishyena? Because the military art was taught to Drishtadyumna by Dronacharya. So he is pointing out a mistake that despite you knowing that Drishtadyumna is born only to kill yourself, you have made a mistake by teaching him the military warfare. You, despite knowing that he's going to kill you, he's born only to kill you. So that is what Duryodhan is pointing to Dronacharya. Then from this verse onwards, he starts narrating the different warriors that are there on the side of Pandavas, and he is comparing their strength also. So what happens now when we want to compare somebody in certain field, we pick up either the best or the worst in that field, depending on whether we want to compare the good qualities or the bad qualities. So now, because the strength is being compared, okay, he picks up Bhimarjuna Samayudhi, he says. So Sama is equal, meaning equal to Bhim and Arjun. There are various fighters in their army, and he names three of them: Yuyudhana, Viratascha, and Drupadascha. And all of them are Maharathi. Okay. Anybody remembers who is Yuyudhana, who is Virat, and who is Drupada? I think Garima Mataji and Kiran Mataji were there last week. So maybe you can try.
Sorry, I'm very bad at names.
Okay.
I'll just always take the gist of it, but won't
Okay.
be able to remember the name. Sorry.
Anything from you, Kiran Mataji? I think not sure whether she is able to hear.
I think Drupad was father of Draupadi, right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah, Draupadi is father of Draupadi that time also.
And who was Yuyudhana and who was Virat?
Can't remember.
Okay. So if you remember, there was one warrior named Satyaki who was constantly with Krishna. So Satyaki was, his another name is Yuyudhana, and Virat is the name of the king in whose kingdom Pandavas and Draupadi spent their last 13th year of exile, where they were supposed to remain, live anonymously. So that king was Virat king. Okay. Now let's move on to verse number 5 onwards. So Bhagavad Gita, as it is divided in 18 chapters, every chapter is also divided in a logical section also. So in the first chapter, there are totally 46 verses. And the first to 10th or 11th verse, I think 11th verse, it is about the preparation for the war, the description of the battlefield. Then verses 12 to 20, they give different signs of victories of Pandavas. These signs are meaning we should know very well that these verses have been spoken from verse number 2 till 20 have been spoken by Sanjay. So Sanjay was a knowledgeable person. He was a disciple of Vyasdev himself, and he could understand these signs. And via these signs, he was indicating to Dhritarashtra that there is no chance that you will be able to win. But despite that, he wanted the battle to happen. Then verses 21 till 27, Arjun speaks his desire that the chariot be drawn in between both the armies so that he can see who has come to fight on either side, and he can take a final look at those people. Then there are certain things happen during that time. I'll speak about it when we reach over there. From verse number 28 onwards till verse number 45, Arjun puts forward 4 arguments why he does not want to fight. So 28 to 30, 31 to 35, 36 to 38, and 39 to 45. And verse number 46, the concluding verse of the first chapter, is spoken by Sanjay, who describes the situation of Arjun to Dhritarashtra. So what we will try to do is we will try to complete one section or a part of a section in every class, so that we get kind of a logical break in the chapter. So like last time, I will read the verse, part of the verse. You can unmute yourself and you can chant the verse. So last time somebody gave a suggestion that we should chant 2 times. So that's a good suggestion. So we will chant 2 times every verse, so that maybe the second time the pronunciation can be a bit better there. So you all can unmute yourself and we will chant the 5th verse. Drushta ketushchekitanah
दृष्टकेतुषे
केतुश्चेकितानः
कितानः
काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान्
काशीराज्यस्य वीर्यवान्
काशीराजस्य वीर्यवान्
पुरुजित् कुन्तिभोजश्च
पुरुजित्
पुरुस्त्य
कुन्तिभोजस्य
शैब्यश्च नरपुङ्गवः
शैवस्य
नरपुङ्गवः
नरपुङ्गवः
दृष्टकेतुश्चेकितानः
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 काशीराजश्च वीर्यवान्
काशीराज्यस्य
काशीराजस्य
वीर्यवान्
वीर्यवान्
पुरुजित् कुन्तिभोजश्च
पुरुजित् कुन्तिभोजश्च
शैब्यश्च नरपुङ्गवः
शल्यश्च
शैवस्य
नरपुङ्गवः
नरपुङ्गवः.
Who would like to read the translation? I think let's go alphabetically. Maybe Garima Mataji, I think you
Yeah.
alphabetically.
So we have to read the translation, right?
Yes.
Not the synonyms.
Yeah.
There are great, heroic, powerful fighters like Dritaketu, Chekitana, Kasiraja, Purujit, Kuntibhoja, and Sebia.
Thank you so much. So now he is continuing the description of the different fighters that are there in the Pandavas camp. So now he is taking the names also of them. So previously in the previous verse, we saw 3 names being spoken. Now he speaks about 5 names here. So in a very summary level, let's understand who these people were. So Drishtaketu, one moment. Okay. So Drishtaketu was the son of Shishupal. Shishupal, you may know, Shishupal was beheaded by Sudarshan Chakra, Krishna Sudarshan Chakra, during the Rajasuya Yajna. And Shishupal, there is a minor story that I will narrate you just now. So, Rajasuya Yajna was a very important yajna that Yudhishthir was supposed to conduct. And in such a pious activity, if somebody's blood is dropped on the floor, the whole yajna can become kind of, a wastage. So when Sudarshan Chakra killed Shishupal, it ensured that not a single drop falls on the floor. So you would see in Srimad Bhagavatam also it is written very clearly that when he was beheaded, his blood did not fall on the ground, because of which no impact happened to the yajna. Then what happened was, the son of Shishupal, that is Drishtaketu, he was trembling with fear. He thought that because my father has been killed, they will kill me also and take my kingdom also. But Yudhishthir didn't do anything of that sort. Yudhishthir immediately mentioned that to Drishtaketu that we have no enmity towards you. We will not be taking your kingdom. Your kingdom is your kingdom. And he immediately puts the crown of Shishupal on the head of Drishtaketu. And this surprises Drishtaketu very much. So despite Shishupal being a friend of Jarasandha and Jarasandha being a friend of Duryodhan, and despite Shishupal being an enemy of Krishna, Drishtaketu is fighting on the camp of Pandavas. And I'll not go into the history of Shishupal. I think many of you know that he, when he was born, he had one extra hand and one extra eye. And there was a prophecy that whoever takes him in his lap and this extra eye and extra hand goes away, that person will kill Shishupal. So Shishupal's mother, one day when Krishna went to him and Krishna took him in his lap, his extra eye and extra hand went away. So Shishupal's mother asks Krishna not to kill him. So Krishna says that's not possible. It is destined and he will be killed by me. So then he only says that instead of killing him immediately, I will forgive his 100 sins, each sin being equivalent to a kind of a death punishment. And when he commits his 101st sin, I will kill him. And that actually happens during the Rajasuya Yajna. Then Chekitana. So Chekitana was the son of Drishtaketu. He was also a formidable warrior like Drishtaketu. And we spoke about one unit of measurement of army, that was Akshauhini. So if you may remember, 7 Akshauhinis worth army was with Pandavas and 11 Akshauhinis worth army was with Kauravas. So every Akshauhini had 21,870 horses and horse warriors, 21,870 elephants and elephant warriors, then cavalry and infantry and all that put together. And there were 7 commanders, one for each Akshauhini on the side of Pandavas. Chekitana was the commander of one of the Akshauhini. Then Kashiraj. So Kashiraj, there is no specific name that is mentioned over there. So Kashiraj is more of a designation. The king of the province of Kashi was called as Kashiraj. So who was that person? The name of that person has not been mentioned anywhere. And then Purujit also is the king of Puru, the ruler of Puru kingdom. Even about him also there is not much mention available. And Kunti Bhoj. So Kunti Bhoj, if you may remember, Kunti Mataji, who was the mother of the Pandavas, she was actually born to a king who was the friend of this King Bhoja, the king of the Bhoja dynasty. And because the king of Bhoja did not have neither a son nor a daughter, this particular king, he gave Kunti to his friend, the king of Bhoja dynasty. So that's why Kunti is generally meaning the kingdom which was basically ruled by that king is named as Kunti Bhoja. And what do you say? Meaning, so he was basically being a maternal uncle of the Pandavas. He also was fighting on the side of Pandavas. Shaibya is also similar to a kind of a designation. You may have heard of the king Shibi. So Shibi was the one who was ready to give away his flesh of the body. He was ready to cut the flesh of his body to give it to that eagle to save the sparrow. Who, meaning the eagle was hunting a sparrow, and the sparrow came and took shelter of this king Shibi. And then Shibi said, "Don't worry, I will not let you die." Then the eagle came and said, "Yeah, the Shibi, that sparrow is my meaning my food. You can't deprive me from my food." So he said, "Okay, fine. You want your food? You take my flesh, which is equivalent to the weight of the sparrow." And he was about to cut his body. That is when the sparrow and the eagle revealed their identity, who were demigods who had come there to test this particular king Shibi. The descendants of King Shibi are known as Shaibya. Just like the descendants of Pandu, King Pandu, are known as Pandavas, Shibi's descendants are known as Shaibya. So these are more from a information perspective that we are trying to understand these verses. These have very less relevance to the philosophy. These have relevance to the reason basically why Arjun puts forward these 4 arguments in front of Krishna. For that perspective only we need to understand these verses. Anybody has any question, or can I proceed? No question.
Yes, please.
Okay. In case you have any question, you can raise your hand and then we can take that question. So you can unmute yourself. We will chant verse number 6. Yudha Manyuscha Vikranta
युधामनुश्च विक्रान्त
Uttamaujaschcha Viryavan
Uttamaujash
उच्चाश्च वीर्यवान्
Saubhadro Draupadeyascha
Bhadro
सौभद्रो द्रौपदेशाश्च
Sarva Eva Maharathaha
सर्व एव महारथः
Yudha Manyuscha Vikranta
युधामनुश्च विक्रान्त
Uttamaujaschcha Viryavan
उत्तमौजाश्च वीर्यवान्
Saubhadro Draupadeyascha
सौभद्रो द्रौपदेशाश्च
Sarva Eva Maharathaha.
सर्व एव महारथः.
Okay. Can somebody read the translation after G? Kiran Mataji, you want to read?
Yes. There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamoja, the son of Subhadra and the son of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters.
So he continues the description by naming the various warriors. Yeah. So Yudhamanyu and Uttamoja. So there was one province named as Panchal, and these two were the princes of the Panchal kingdom. Okay, and during the war, there are quite a few responsibilities that are allocated to different people, and sometimes we may feel these responsibilities are as a bit kind of weird. But these two were given the responsibility of guarding the wheels of the chariot of Arjun. Now, it may seem to be, what is this kind of responsibility? You are inviting some princess to fight on your behalf in your army, and you give them such a kind of a lowly activity. But it is a very important activity for one very key reason, that Arjun was the instrument based on which Pandavas could actually win the war. Had Arjun not been there, it would have been, forget Krishna, we'll not bring Krishna into equation now, but just if you remove Krishna from the equation and remove Arjun also, practically it was impossible for Pandavas to win the war. And despite Arjun being there, Arjun wouldn't have been able to defeat Bhishma and Dronacharya at all. So such a important place Arjun had in the army, in that side, it was basically very critical to guard Arjun and the supporting environment also. Now, what happens is, one of the techniques that these fighters employ is, if you cannot attack the attacker or your enemy, you eliminate the defenders of the enemy. So what happens is, the chariot driver, the horses, the bows and the arrows and the other armaments, all of these are factors based on which that fighter, the hero, is fighting. So if you eliminate these factors, then it becomes simple for you to fight that person and win the war. So there is always a good chance that people may shoot arrow to the chariot driver also. So when the chariot driver is dead, the chariot cannot move ahead, and then it becomes simple to attack. Similarly, the people used to attack the wheels of the chariot also, so that if the wheels are broken, then also the chariot cannot move ahead. And on the 14th day, if you remember, Arjun had taken a vow that because Abhimanyu was killed by one of the factors was Jayadratha, he had taken a vow that he will kill Jayadratha before the end of the next day's sunset. And if he can't do it, he will self-immolate. So it was very much important, especially on that day, that the wheels of Arjuna's chariot were guarded properly, so that Arjun can reach to Jayadratha. So such a strategy was also being employed for defense as well as for attack also. Saubhadra meaning the son of Subhadra. The way we saw Shaibya is to Shibi or Pandav is to Pandu. Similarly, Saubhadra is to Subhadra. That is, anybody knows who is Subhadra? Anybody knows? Who is Subhadra?
Krishna's sister.
Sister of Krishna, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And why is she mentioned here? Why is her son mentioned here? What is her relationship with war?
What's the relation, Miss?
Subhadra's son is Abhimanyu.
Yes, correct. And Abhimanyu is the son of
Arjun.
Arjun. Yeah. So Subhadra was the wife of Arjun. So the story goes like this one, that Balaram wanted Subhadra to be married off to Duryodhan, and Krishna didn't want that to happen. So one day he calls Arjun and asks him to come in the disguise of a Brahman. And he tells Subhadra what is going to happen. And so Arjun proposes to Subhadra, and they agree basically to marry each other. But now the problem is, Balaram was very angry, and Balaram was very powerful also. So how to convince him? So Krishna tells Arjun that you tell Subhadra to drive you away from the kingdom. So the chariot should be driven by Subhadra and not sorry. So the chariot should be driven by Subhadra and not Arjun. Because if Arjun drives the chariot, it may look as if he has kidnapped Subhadra. But if Subhadra drives the chariot, then it will seem as if Subhadra willingly went with Arjun. And when the people see this happening and when they narrate to Balram, then Balram realizes this is something arranged by Krishna, and he realizes he is helpless because he cannot force, meaning he cannot fight with Arjun because Arjun himself is actually taken away by Subhadra. And then Abhimanyu is born. There are various stories about Abhimanyu also. On that 13th day, when this so a bit of a background here. Duryodhan was a very diplomatic person, and we will see his diplomacy in the various verses that will come in subsequently. So one of the thoughts he applies is he is unable to convince Bhishma and Dronacharya to fight wholeheartedly, willingly, and kill the Pandavas. So what he does is he tells Dronacharya, he particularly attacks and insults Dronacharya on a particular evening, on the 12th day. Okay, so what happened was Bhishma was the commander in chief, and on the 10th day, Arjun, invalidates him. He puts him to rest. He doesn't die, of course, but he's on the bed of arrows. On the 11th day, Dronacharya becomes the Senapati, commander in chief. And on the 12th night, Duryodhan tells him that you do not intend to fight willingly for me. So he proposes to Duryodhan, to Dronacharya, that if you cannot kill the Pandavas, at least can you kidnap Yudhishthir for me? He says, if you kidnap Yudhishthir, being the king of the other army, he will automatically lose the war, and we don't need to fight and kill so many other warriors also. So Dronacharya likes this idea, and he arranges the Chakravyuha. Okay. The Chakravyuha is a very powerful, meaning what exactly it is, I don't know, but as I understood the description, it's a very powerful method for fighting, and you can only break the Chakravyuha if you have proper knowledge about it. And it also requires knowledge to be able to come out of the Chakravyuha. Just entering is not sufficient. So what happened was this knowledge was possessed only by two people in the Pandava army, that was Arjun and Krishna. And half knowledge to enter the Chakravyuha, the half knowledge was known to Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu did not know how to come out of it. So what the other four Pandavas tell him is, we will constantly be behind you and we will not let you away for a single minute. And we will not let the mouth of Chakravyuha close, so that you will not have a problem in exiting the Chakravyuha. And that way they enter the Chakravyuha also. But Jayadratha had received a boon from Lord Shiva. He had asked to be able to defeat all the five Pandavas. Shiva said, that is impossible. I cannot give you such a boon. Then he said, at least give me a boon where I can fight four of them and defeat them. So he said, yeah, on one particular day, you will be able to fight the other four Pandavas and you will be able to defeat them. On this particular day, this boon comes out to be true. Jayadratha, the moment Abhimanyu enters the Chakravyuha, Jayadratha comes in between these four Pandavas and he fights them throughout the day. And while Abhimanyu enters inside, he doesn't know how to come out. So he's able to break, but he's not able to exit. And then all of these Kauravas and Karna and various other fighters, they attack him individually and they kill him. So when Arjun realizes that Jayadratha is the main cause because of which the four other Pandavas were not able to enter the Chakravyuha, he takes that vow to kill him before the next sunset. Otherwise, he will self-immolate. And that is that complete story about this one. Now, we will move on to the Draupadeyascha. Draupadeyascha meaning, any idea what does it mean? No? So the sons of Draupadi, meaning Draupadeyascha. Okay, now let's quickly look at it. There is a bearing of this one on the war because this guy Ashwathama kills all of these 5 sons of Draupadi on the 18th night. That activity was so ghastly that even Duryodhan did not like it. Yeah, even Duryodhan, you can imagine. And he thinks that these are the 5 Pandavas, and that's why he kills them, but actually they were the sons of Draupadi. So I'll just read out the names of these ones. So they were known as Upa Pandavas, meaning the sons of Pandavas. So Upa Pandava. Okay. Their names were Prativindya, Sutasoma, Shrutakarma, Shatanik, and Shrutasena. What is notable about this one is there is a kind of a misconception that Prativindya must be the son of Yudhishthir, Sutasoma may be the son of Bhima, Shrutakarma may be the son of Arjun, but that is not the case. If you remember, when Draupadi was won in that Swayamvar, Arjun and Bhima, they played a trick with Kunti Mataji. And they said, we have brought some nice, what do you call it, bhiksha. And then she says, okay, you can distribute that among 5 of you. And then they realize their mistake. So then certain things happen, the story why this happened and all that stuff. So finally, Yudhishthir comes out with a suggestion to say that 2 months and 12 days, which is exactly 360 divided by 5, Draupadi will be with each of the sons. Okay. And then she will, once 2 months and 12 days are over, she will move to the second son. Okay. Now we will assume that Yudhishthir being the elder one, he will be the first one, and Bhima will be the second. But that is not how Yudhishthir arranged the sequence. He said that Nakul was the eldest son of Madri, and Sahadev was younger one. So he said that after me, Nakul will come first. Then after that, Bhima will come, being the second son of Kunti. After that, second son of Madri, that is Sahadev. And after that, third son of Kunti, that is Arjun, will come. So that was the order. And in that order, the sons were born. So Prativindya being the son of Yudhishthir, Sutasoma was the son of Nakul, Shrutakarma was the son of Bhima, and Shatanik was the son of Sahadev, and Shrutasena was the son of Arjun. So that was the order. Okay. I'll not go into too much of details about these sons. When the topic comes up, we will talk about it, right? So you might see one more word coming here, Maharatha. So Maharatha is basically a meaning a vocative form, an addressing form of Maharathi. What are the 3 categories of warriors? Rati, Rathi, Atirathi, and Maharathi. So Rathi is the lowest one, and these are warriors depending on the level of excellence. So Rathi is one, it's a title which means a warrior who fights on a chariot. So a Rathi is somebody who can fight around 5,000 warriors simultaneously. The next higher title is Atirathi. It is awarded to a person who can fight 12 Rathis directly, meaning at the same time. So one Atirathi fights 12 Rathis, and one Rathi fights 5,000 warriors. And Maharathi is one who can fight 12 Atirathis. So you can imagine all of these people who are mentioned, they are Maharathis who can fight 12 Atirathis at the same time. And these 12 Atirathis had a capability to fight 12 Rathis. So you can imagine how the Maharathi would be good in terms of fighting. Okay, so let's move on to text 7. If I'm going into too much of details, let me know, I will cut short. Yeah. Just want to focus on the key subject. So text 7, if you can unmute yourself. Asmakam tu vishishtaye
अस्माकं तु विशिष्टाये
तान्निबोध द्विजोत्तम
तान्निबोध द्विजोत्तम
नायका मम सैन्यस्य
नायका मम सैन्यस्य
संज्ञार्थ ताम्रवीमि ते
तान् ब्रवीमि ते.
Who can read? Anybody?
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
I'll read.
I can.
But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force.
Thank you, Mataji. Now, what has happened? From verses 3 to 6, Duryodhan described the Pandava army. Now, in the seventh one, he speaks about the warriors on his side. Why? He felt that it shouldn't happen that my side, my commanders, my chiefs, and my warriors, they shouldn't feel that their king, that is Duryodhan, is afraid of the Pandava army, and that's why appreciating them. So he thinks, no, it would not be right, so let me appreciate them as well. So that is the purpose behind describing his own warriors. You might see there is a word used here, Dvijottama. So Dvija and Uttama, these are the two words which make up the word Dvijottama. Uttama is basically the best, and Dvija is the best of the Brahmanas. So Dvija is born again, meaning born again, born once more, born second time. So there are two perspectives of looking at this particular word. When a person does not achieve the ultimate objective of human life and he is born again as a human to complete whatever is pending, he is called Dvija. And another perspective of this is when a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he is also called as Dvija. So meaning one who gets a kind of a second life. In the same life, the initiation, Diksha, is considered to be a kind of and one more life, a new rebirth of a person is what it is understood as. Now, Dronacharya is called as a Dvijottama. He is addressing Dronacharya. There are certain qualities of a Brahman, like Shama, Dama, Tapa, Shaucham, and all that, which are mentioned in the 18th chapter, 42nd verse. So we will, when we reach that, we will understand it. So this person, Dronacharya, had displayed all of these qualities, and that's why he is being addressed as a Dvijottama. Now, one more thing you may notice that he is highlighting this to Dronacharya, who is also standing at the same level as Duryodhan and who is also able to see the army of Pandavas. But despite that, he is narrating it to him for one additional reason, that whatever he is speaking is being heard by the other warriors also. So the other warriors should also feel confident when he is appreciating them, which is also a kind of a diplomacy implemented by Duryodhan. Okay, so now the description of the Kaurava army starts from verse number 8. So let's look at verse number 8. You can unmute yourself. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha
Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha
Pascha Samitinjayah
Kripa
Ninjayah
Ashwathama Vikarnascha
Ashwathama Vikarnascha
Saumadattis Tathaivacha.
Saumadhistataivacha.
Who can read the translation?
I can read.
Yeah, please.
There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurisrava, who are always victorious in battle.
Yeah, thank you. So now quite a few warriors are named in one single verse. So Bhavan, meaning it is an addressing of, when we call Aap in Hindi. So Aap meaning it's a a respectable address. So here Bhavan indicates Dronacharya because he is speaking to Dronacharya. So Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Kripacharya, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava. Okay. So what is great about all of these warriors? So Dronacharya was a Brahman for whom killing that Brahman was not a simple task. So Brahma and other demigods had to create Drishtadyumna in order to kill him. So that was his control over death. Bhishma also had control over death. He had received a boon from his father that whenever he wishes, only he will die, otherwise he will not die. Kripacharya is one of the 7 Chiranjeevis. He also has control over death. Ashwathama is also another of the 7 Chiranjeevis. Yeah. And Karna himself. So all of them are very good fighters and they have not lost a single war. Not Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Kripacharya. And by the end of the war, only Kripacharya remained alive. All of others were dead. Okay, Ashwathama also. Sorry, I'll correct myself. Kripacharya and Ashwathama remained alive by the end of the war. Otherwise, everybody was dead. Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows and he gave up his body a few months later. So this war basically happened somewhere in November, December times. And he gave up his body when the Uttarayan started, which is on Sankranti. That means probably the second half of January. So that is briefly about these warriors. If you want to know specific about any particular warrior, we can speak about it. But otherwise, it doesn't have much of a relevance on the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Arjuna's questions also. So I'm not going into too much of detail. Karna is being mentioned here, although he is not fighting, at least on the first day of the war. But the reason why Karna is being mentioned is for Duryodhan, Karna is more than his own body. So Karna actually plays a big role in Duryodhan's mentality. And that's why he can never forget Karna or not, meaning he cannot avoid speaking about Karna. Okay, so Kripacharya, you might be aware, we spoke about it last week. Kripacharya's wife was named as Kripi, and Kripi was the wife of Dronacharya. So that way both of them were related with each other. We'll do one more verse, text number 9. Okay, you can unmute yourself. Anye cha bahavaha shura
Anye cha bhavava shura
madarthe tyakta jivitaha
madarte takta jivitaha
nana shastra praharnaha
nana shastra praharana
sarve yuddha visharadaha.
sarve yuddha visharadaha.
Can somebody read the translation? Who's reading?
Sure, I
Yeah,
can
please.
read it.
Please.
There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science.
Thank you so much. One point I forgot to talk about in the previous verse, that was about Vikarna. So Vikarna was a brother of Duryodhan, and Duryodhan did not mention Dushasan. Yeah, he was his closest brother, but Duryodhan mentions Vikarna. Now, why did he mention Vikarna? Another reason and another proof of Duryodhan's diplomacy is Vikarna was the only person who stood up and supported Draupadi when she was being attempted to be disrobed. So he was, I think, third or fourth brother of, I'm not very much sure, of Duryodhan. And Duryodhan felt that if I do not appreciate him, if he feels insulted, he may go and fight on the side of Pandavas. So prior to such religious wars being fought, before the start of the war, the kings of both the armies, they give an opportunity to every warrior on both the sides to take a final decision in which from which side they want to fight. So Duryodhan is thinking that when Yudhishthir calls out, if Vikarna goes over there, he will lose one warrior. So to avoid that, he is taking his name to highlight to him that you are also so very important to me, although Vikarna was not of the same caliber of Bhishma or Dronacharya. Now, what is he doing? Now, he cannot name each and everybody. So he basically groups all of the remaining ones to say that there are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. Okay. Now, there is a mistake that he commits in this particular verse. So Sanskrit grammar, if you look at it from that perspective, Madarthe Tyakta Jivitaha indicates a action which has happened in the past, which means they have already laid down their lives for me. Actually, he wants to say they are ready to lay down their lives for me. So technically, this statement is incorrect, which is what he spoke. But what Duryodhan speaks is actually true, because that is what actually happened, and probably that is what was known to him as well. That will happen. So that is how he spoke this verse. Now, here the point is basically he is highlighting that they are skilled in different weapons and military science, and with that he is giving an assurance to his other warriors that with the protection of people like Dronacharya, Bhishma, Karna, Krupacharya, Ashwathama, and so many different warriors who are expert in military science, you have nothing to worry. You will win the war. Pandavas will lose. That is what he is now indicating. Okay. Now let's move on to one more verse. Maybe one verse we can complete. Verse number 10. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll reduce my speed in terms of covering more detail if you want.
Okay.
Paryaptam tadasmakam
Paryatam tadasmakam
balam bhishmabhirakshitam
balam bhishmabhirakshitam
paryaptam tvidame
paryatam tvidamedesham
balam bhimabhirakshitam.
balam bhimarbhirakshitam.
Translation.
I can do.
Okay.
Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited.
Yeah. So here now, after description of both the armies, now a comparison is being done. So he is saying that because Pitamaha Bhishma is a personality like Bhishma is protecting us, that's why our strength is aparyaptam, immeasurable. Whereas Bhima in terms of fighting ability was considered to be a fig, anjeer, in front of Bhishma. Itna chota hai wo. Not in terms of size, but in terms of ability. So there was never any kind of chance that Bhima could have defeated Bhishma in a one-to-one battle, whichever weapon was used. even if he used Gada, the mace, still Bhima couldn't have defeated Bhishma. That was his strength. So he is saying that on one side, person like Bhishma is protecting us. That's why our strength is immeasurable, because he himself can never be defeated by anybody. Whereas on the other side, Pandavas are protected by a person like Bhima. Bhima is nothing in compared to in front of Bhishma. So that from that perspective, our strength is, meaning Pandava's strength is limited. That is what he is highlighting here. Now, Duryodhan mentions Bhima specifically and not Drishtadyumna, because commander-in-chief of Kaurav should be compared with the commander-in-chief of Pandavas, but he doesn't bring Drishtadyumna, he brings Bhima. That is because from a strength perspective, he understands that Bhima is the mightiest among all the Pandavas. On top of that one, because Duryodhan also was expert in the same weapon as Bhima, Bhima became a natural opponent for Duryodhan. And that's why for him, strength, if at all that factor is to be compared, Bhima was the topmost of all of them. There are various other meanings also to this one. So Paryaptam is a word. Aparyaptam is a negation of Paryaptam. Okay. So Aparyaptam is basically immeasurable, unlimited. Paryaptam is limited. And you will see such kind of, opposite words being used in the same verses or different verses to describe some meanings over a period of, over these 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you allow me, can we just do one last verse, or shall we keep it for the next class if you want to close off now?
We can do one more. Prabhu.
We can do.
So let's chant verse number 11, because this is a logical end of the section here. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu
Ayaneshu cha sarveshu
yatha bhagam avasthitaha
yata bhagam avastitaha
bhishmamevabhirakshantu
bhishma veva virakshantu
bhavantah sarva eva hi.
bhavantah sarva eva hi.
Can someone read the translation?
Yeah, I
Sure.
can do. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Phalanx, yeah. So now this is the last verse, which is indirectly, of course, spoken by Duryodhana in the whole of Bhagavad Gita. So there is no Duryodhana Uvacha in Bhagavad Gita. So only 4 speakers are there in Bhagavad Gita. Anybody knows who are they? Who are the 4 speakers who have spoken at least one verse in Bhagavad Gita? एक का तो नाम बोलो.
Is it Krishna?
Sanjay,
Sanjay Uvacha.
Arjun?
Correct.
Sanjay, Krishna, Arjun.
Arjun?
And,
Yeah, Dhritarashtra.
Duryodhan.
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra.
The Duryodhan hasn't spoken any verse. So Duryodhan indirectly speaks, but directly is communicated by Sanjay. And this is the last verse which Duryodhan indirectly speaks and Sanjay communicates in the Bhagavad Gita. From here onwards, from the 12th verse onwards, you will not see Duryodhan speaking something. Okay. Now, a kind of a diplomatic message Duryodhan is passing via this verse to all other warriors, to now state that he has appreciated people like Bhishma, Karna, Dronacharya and all that, and he has indirectly appreciated the other warriors without taking their names. But they shouldn't feel that they are belittled by not taking their names. So now he highlights their role in the war to state that people like Bhishma and all that, They are very good fighters, but they are old. They cannot fight without people like you supporting them. So that's why you have to guard the military, the strategic points, and protect them. And that is why your role is equally important. That is how he communicates to the other warriors in this particular verse. Now, I have a question for all of you. Okay, Duryodhan speaks about Pandav army, about Kaurav army. He takes the names of various warriors and all that, right? What did he miss? What did he not consider?
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the main reason why he ignored it, he did.
Hello.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so
Yeah.
what he thinks is Krishna had taken a vow that he will never take up a weapon in the Kurukshetra war. Meaning, at a certain point of time, he said that my personal duty of killing various demons is done with now. Now I will not lift any weapon. So that's why he doesn't take up even Sudarshan Chakra also after a certain point of time. So Krishna, when he goes along with Arjun to ask for the help from Krishna, so Krishna tells him, I'm not going to fight a war. What will you do by taking a person like me in your camp? So you have a choice, you take me or you take Narayani Sena. And Duryodhan foolishly opts for Narayani Sena, thinks that a Sena is more important than having a person like Krishna on our side. So he opts for Narayani Sena, Arjun opts for Krishna, and that is why Duryodhan thinks that a weaponless person like Krishna is a kind of a factor which will not have any bearing on the war. That's why he does not consider his presence at all. And that's why he does not name him in this particular description. And this is a kind of a mistake he did not just during this description, but throughout whole of Mahabharata. He never understood who Krishna is, and he never understood what Krishna wanted him to do, but he could never do it. This particular mistake proves to be fatal for him throughout the war, which is the kind of the most important factor in the war is Krishna's presence on the side of Pandavas. Hare Krishna. With this, we can end today's class. Are there any questions? Any question anybody has?
No, Prabhuji.
I
No
have
problem.
one question.
Yeah, Mataji.
How do you, learn to pronounce these Sanskrit words with the right way? How do you practice that?
Yeah, you just need to practice it. Only then it will come. So initially, when we are learning any new language, may it be French or even say English, we didn't pronounce it correctly, right? The words we faltered. Even today, if we pick up certain words of English language from the dictionary, we may, make mistakes in pronouncing them for the first 1 or 2 times. But when we practice, we are able to do it. Similarly, this has to be practiced over and over again, and you will be able to pronounce it correctly. It's just a matter of time. Because Sanskrit has been the mother of most of the languages. That's why the pronunciation of alphabets is very similar to what we have in our language also. So for us, it is not at all difficult. We have seen people in ISKCON who are mostly Westerners. They are also able to chant Sanskrit verses very nicely, which comes over a period of time by a lot of practice. So we will be able to do that.
Okay.
I think we can also go through some of the YouTube videos of
Yeah,
full
correct.
Gita on the Sanskrit verses.
Perfect.
And once they are there, we can repeat after that.
Yes. One of our devotees of ISKCON, his father is a Pandit in Sanskrit. He passed away now, but prior to that, he had written one small book. He had broken up each and every word of every verse of Bhagavad Gita, which helped understand, speak, and pronounce it properly. I will try and see if I have that book. I'll try to give it to you.
Okay.
Okay. So see you next week. I hope you all have liked the class. Please do come regularly. Hare
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.